As of June 2025, the long-standing animosity between Iran and Israel has dramatically escalated into direct, high-intensity military confrontation, marking a significant departure from decades of more covert engagements. This shift began notably with Israel's Operation Rising Lion on June 13th, 2025, which targeted critical Iranian nuclear and military facilities. Iran swiftly retaliated with successive waves of missiles and drones aimed at Israeli urban centers. The human cost of this direct conflict has been substantial, with hundreds of casualties, including civilians and military personnel, reported on both sides. The current conflict is deeply rooted in the ideological transformation of Iran following its 1979 Islamic Revolution, which converted a former ally into an ardent adversary, viewing Israel as an existential threat. A primary driver of the hostilities remains Iran's nuclear program, which Israel perceives as an existential danger, while Tehran consistently asserts its peaceful intentions. Both nations employ a multifaceted strategic approach that includes overt military operations, extensive proxy warfare, and sophisticated cyber capabilities. The international community, including the United States, Russia, China, and the European Union, has engaged in various diplomatic efforts, but a clear and sustainable path to de-escalation remains elusive amidst the intensifying exchanges. The conflict has profoundly impacted regional stability, leading to widespread airspace closures, significant economic disruptions, and a worsening humanitarian crisis. Before the seismic shift of the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran and Israel maintained a relationship that was notably cooperative, a stark contrast to their current adversarial stance. Iran stood as the second Muslim-majority nation to formally recognize Israel following its establishment in 1948. This diplomatic engagement evolved into a robust partnership under the Pahlavi dynasty, which governed Iran until 1979. During this period, Israel operated a de facto embassy in Tehran, and both countries exchanged ambassadors in the 1970s. The alliance was underpinned by significant economic and security cooperation. Iran became a crucial oil supplier for Israel, leading to joint ventures such as a pipeline designed to transport Iranian oil to Israel and then onwards to Europe. This collaboration, while extensive, was often conducted discreetly to avoid antagonizing Arab nations in the region. The strategic rationale behind this relationship was rooted in Israel's periphery doctrine, a foreign policy approach conceived by its first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. This doctrine aimed to forge alliances with non-Arab, predominantly Muslim countries like Turkey and pre-revolutionary Iran, thereby creating a counterbalance against the largely hostile Arab states that surrounded Israel. This historical alignment was a pragmatic geopolitical arrangement, driven by shared adversaries and mutual economic benefits rather than a deep cultural or ideological affinity. This foundational understanding is crucial, as it highlights that the subsequent transformation was not merely a change in government, but a profound ideological reorientation that superseded previous geopolitical pragmatism. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, spearheaded by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, ushered in a radical transformation of Iran's domestic and foreign policy, irrevocably altering its relationship with Israel. The newly established theocratic regime adopted an overtly hostile stance toward Israel, immediately withdrawing its recognition, severing all diplomatic and commercial ties, and consistently referring to Israel as the Zionist regime, or occupied Palestine. A potent symbol of this ideological reversal was the conversion of the former Israeli embassy in Tehran into the Palestinian embassy. Khomeini's revolutionary worldview championed a vision of Islamic solidarity and staunch opposition to what he termed arrogant world powers and their regional allies. Within this framework, Israel was branded the Little Satan, a designation that underscored its perceived role as a regional extension of the Great Satan, the United States. This ideological and religious framing of the conflict is a critical factor in understanding its enduring nature. Unlike conventional political disagreements, conflicts imbued with religious significance often prove far more resistant to pragmatic solutions. This suggests that even if political circumstances in the Middle East were to shift, the deeply ingrained ideological and religious opposition would continue to make comprehensive de-escalation and normalization exceedingly difficult in the long term, as it transcends conventional geopolitical interests and becomes a matter of fundamental belief. Following the 1979 revolution, Iran actively supported Palestinian causes and played a pivotal role in establishing and funding various groups ideologically opposed to Israel's existence. A significant example of this strategy emerged when Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982, prompting Iran to provide crucial funds and training for the establishment of Hezbollah. Hezbollah subsequently grew into Iran's most formidable guerrilla adversary to Israel, wielding substantial regional power. Beyond Lebanon, Tehran extended its financial and military support to other paramilitary groups, including Hamas in Gaza, Yemen's Houthi rebels, and various Shia militias operating in Iraq and Syria. These groups collectively form what Iran refers to as the Axis of Resistance, a network explicitly aimed at opposing U.S. and Israeli interests across the Middle East. This extensive proxy strategy is a calculated instrument for asymmetric warfare. It allows Iran to project its influence and deter adversaries by keeping their interests under constant threat through non-state actors, thereby minimizing the risks and direct costs of overt military engagement on its own soil, while maintaining a degree of plausible deniability. This approach maximizes impact while minimizing direct accountability and risk, a classic asymmetric warfare strategy that leverages distributed threats against conventionally stronger adversaries.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who ascended to power as supreme leader in 1989, stands as the ultimate decision-maker in Iran, having profoundly shaped the Islamic Republic over more than 3 decades. He has systematically entrenched the system of rule by Shiite Muslim clerics, solidifying his authority among hardliners. Concurrently, Khamenei has cultivated the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard, IRGC, into the dominant force within Iran's military and internal political landscape. The IRGC is not merely a conventional military branch. It encompasses Iran's most elite military units, oversees its critical ballistic missile program, and, through its international arm, the Quds Force, has meticulously constructed the Axis of Resistance. The Quds Force is specifically tasked with extraterritorial operations, including the training and equipping of foreign Islamic revolutionary groups across the Middle East. This deep integration of the IRGC into Iran's political, military, and even economic spheres, with Khamenei's direct backing, indicates a highly centralized decision-making structure, particularly concerning national security and foreign policy. The IRGC's pervasive influence means that military actions directed against Iran are not simply targeting state assets, but are also directly challenging the core pillars of the regime's domestic power and legitimacy, as their external strategy is deeply intertwined with internal control.
Iran's overarching strategic objective is to secure substantial regional influence and deter direct attacks from Israel and the United States by maintaining a credible threat to their interests through its network of proxies. The nuclear program is a cornerstone of this deterrence posture, with Iran consistently asserting its peaceful intent, despite enriching uranium to levels approaching weapons grade. This program is seen as a vital component for projecting power and enhancing Iran's leverage in regional conflicts and any future negotiations with the United States. This pursuit of deterrence through both its nuclear program and its proxy network has, perhaps paradoxically, contributed to the current direct conflict. Israel views Iran's nuclear ambitions as an, quote, existential threat, unquote, compelling it to undertake preemptive actions. And so this dynamic creates a, quote, unquote, deterrence dilemma, unquote. Iran's efforts to establish a deterrent capability are perceived by Israel as provocations that necessitate a military response, which in turn motivates Iran to further develop its capabilities, thus perpetuating a continuous escalation spiral. The recent setbacks experienced by Iran's proxy strategy, as evidenced by the significant damage inflicted upon Hezbollah and the collapse of the Assad regime in Syria, that's a lot of this multilemma appear to have compelled Iran into more direct, higher risk confrontations, end quote. This suggests that Iran's long-standing strategy for regional stability has, in the current environment, led to increased instability and direct military engagement.